Offering amazing food and drink, a legendary seat, and stellar service, All Nippon Airways is reputed to be the ultimate in business class luxury, while also offering the best value in terms of points redemptions for award fares in the entire airline industry. But at an average cost of $7,000 round trip, is the hype all it's cracked up to be? Come along on my journey and judge for yourself. My journey today actually commences in Seoul with an amazing A380 Asiana Air flight bringing me to Tokyo to connect to Star Alliance partner All Nippon Airways. I have a wonderfully long layover of 5 hours at Tokyo Narita, affording me plenty of time to transfer and enjoy the lounges at my disposal. Because I'm flying on ANA, I, and all Star Alliance business class passengers, have access to the gorgeous Narita United Club Lounge, which is hands down the best business class lounge at Narita. The food selection is decent. The drinks perhaps even more so. I love sake. But it's really the delightful decor, gorgeous Japanese antiques, and stunning view of the apron that make this lounge such an attractive space. Variety is, however, the spice of life, and the United Lounge is getting crowded. So, with plenty of time still before boarding, I head to the ANA Lounge. Well, the best laid plans of mice and men. We are commencing the third leg of my month-long travel marathon, and I landed here in Narita to receive a message, an email from Anna from All Nippon Airways that my flight has been delayed by 50 minutes. Unfortunately, that eats significantly into the self-transfer layover time that I had planned for myself at Chicago O'Hare, so I may or may not make that connection to Asheville tonight. We'll see. In the meanwhile, we're here at the ANA Business Lounge at Narita. I have to say, I remember now I was here in April. It's not one of my favorite lounges. It is extremely institutional, and it doesn't have any of the beautiful decorative elements of Japanese culture or traditions or aesthetics. The United Club Lounge at Narita is far superior, but I spent a lot of time there and I wanted to come back to the ANA Lounge and see if anything had changed. Nothing has changed, in case you're wondering. Food isn't very impressive. It really feels more like a cafeteria here than anything else. But at least they have these little relaxation pods where you can actually kick your feet up on a footstool and take a nap, which I didn't know about. And I wish I had earlier, because I really did need a nap earlier. Okay, well everyone, we are out of the lounge and on our way to our flight, which is, I think it says it's expected to board at 5:50. I haven't actually seen that it's boarding, but I thought we'd take a little walk around the airport anyway, because ostensibly I'll be sitting for 10 or 11 or more hours. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there is our Boeing 777. Thank you. The first thing I notice as I make the amazingly long trek to my seat in the back of business class is that everything is surprisingly blue, but I find it very pleasant.
Welcome on board.
Thank you. But this is not my seat. I'm mistaken. This is my seat. I immediately commence the ritual of unpacking, during which time I come to realize that there's very little in-seat storage. Well, here we are on board our suite in the sky, and holy goodness, this seat definitely deserves the sobriquet of the room, because it is absolutely a room. My God, I want to spend a lot of hours in this thing being pampered by wonderful, friendly Japanese flight attendants. Okay, let's see what we've got in here. Interesting, okay. So there are the outlets. Here we go. The whole thing opens, look at that. Mirror for those who like to stare at themselves like cockatiels. I do not. Storage space for small things. Wonderfully large screen, couldn't test a hand for scale. Very responsive to touch. Nice. Chic and sophisticated looking controls that put the bed into its various modes. A whole suite of reading lights. And welcome beverages have been brought around. I thought it was water. It's not. It's champagne. Well, champagne it is. Although, curiously, it's a plastic cup instead of a glass bottle, which is a little weird. So I just wanted to say that right behind my cabin is the premium economy cabin, or whatever they call their not base economy product. And actually, those look like some of the business class seats in which I've flown recently on airlines like Air India. They look like they'd be actually pretty comfy. So if you can't afford the room or even the suite, then maybe you might want to consider pricing the premium economy product on All Nippon Airways. Recommended. So I just did some very scientific visual testing of the seats, or visual gauging of the seats, and I can tell you that not all the seats are equal in this cabin. So the center seats are wider than the window seats, and the seats that are by the galley door, they are more narrow as well. So tip, if you don't care about having a window, take the middle seats because they're going to be much more spacious. Now granted, I know that sounds a little absolutely absurd considering the amount of space you get in this seat, but I know for some of us we really like to maximize the bang for our buck or our yen or our points, and that's how I would recommend doing it. Don't take the seats that are near the doors, near the galley doors, and take the middle seats instead if you don't care about having a window. And they just delivered a bottle of mineral water, natural mineral water instead of artificial or synthetic natural water, to get us through until we get in the air and they can get us a more extensive service. Yay! So something I am generally noticing is that there is almost no in-seat storage space, really. And, you know, with as much space as I have for my body, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with the quote-unquote inconvenience of having to, God forbid, lift myself up and get something out of the overhead bin mid-flight. It's okay. As it turns out, there is zero in-seat storage because you can't put anything under the little ottoman either. I just had to put my toiletry bag and my sewing project up above, so not even clothing can go under there during takeoff or landing. So no in-seat storage with the room. And while we're waiting for takeoff, they deliver the menus, which is frankly one of my favorite parts of the business class experience. The menu comes with pictures. While we await takeoff, Maiko comes and takes my order. She, of course, recommends the Japanese menu. Not that I was ever going to choose anything else. The pictures alone fascinate me. Instead of a hot towel of wonder, we get cold wet wipe in plastic wrap? Soon enough, or rather late enough, it is time for takeoff. As soon as we are in the air, dinner service commences. Also, check out this infinite corridor of business class seats. While our diligent flight attendants come through the cabin and lay the tablecloths, let us explore our amenity kit. The bag itself is made by Ettinger, a high-end leather company. Although instead of being made of leather, it consists of a lovely, natural-feeling fabric. Perhaps even cotton, dare I hope? It has a wire lining around the rim to lend it firmness, which makes it a really practical bag for someone who's hard on her things, like I am. Within the recesses of the bag, we find a reusable shopping bag made of nylon. Would have preferred a natural fiber, but I appreciate a highly practical item such as a reusable shopping bag. Next, the requisite tag informing you just how fortunate you are to have this distinguished kit by a designer label, followed by a mysterious sachet containing a Veda lip balm and a Veda skin cream. Notice what is missing though? No toothbrush, comb, toothpaste, etc. I expect those will be found in the lavatory when we eventually head there. I personally love this kit. The high-quality bag contains items that are useful to everyone, but does not automatically provide items that many people never use on a flight, and do not need once they are home because they already have one. What do you think? As I sip my delicious roasted green tea, the amuse-gueule is served, and I finally discover what chili pie sticks are. To wit, exactly what one may imagine. Flaky American-style pastry crust with some interesting chili spice sprinkles on top. It's actually delicious. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. The pastrami chicken and cheese is equally delicious, although obviously not as exotic. And of course, to accompany this whole affair, no, not water. That is a beautiful glass of top-shelf sake. Oh yes. I mean, yes, I am also drinking tea. Speaking of which, Maiko is so adept at keeping me hydrated that I find myself in need of the lavatory. Thankfully, I'm not a prisoner of my table. It moves to allow my hasty escape. Upon my return, Maiko serves me the first course, referred to as zensai in Japanese. Crab meat, seared scallop, kelp-cured alfonsino, squid and wakame seaweed with vinegar jelly, burdock root and French beans rolled with chicken, eggplant, yuba with sesame vinegar, and grilled conger eel and marinated chrysanthemum in a soy-based sauce. I'll be honest, I'm only peripherally acquainted with Japanese cuisine, so I am super excited to try all of these completely new dishes. The beauty and the flavors combine to make every bite delightful. Also, I'm so very glad I did not eat much earlier in the lounges. Next comes the main course, the shusai, a lovely tableau of scrumptious braised beef belly, an eringi mushroom roll, and something I've never eaten before in my life, grilled barracuda, which apparently can come with toxicity issues, but YOLO seems to be the theme of this meal. And the shusai is enhanced by the addition of turbulence. The beef belly melts in my mouth, and the barracuda is intriguingly interesting. I will say, though, that the Japanese option is, unsurprisingly, extremely seafood heavy, so if you do not like fish, choose the international option. Or maybe even select a seafood-free meal in advance, since even the international option strikes me as, nautically themed. Finally up, the dessert course, Japanese chestnut cream cake and fresh fruit. The chestnut cream cake seems to be a parfait featuring a disc of sponge cake at the bottom, a chestnut mash swirl, and topped with real whipped cream. It is unique, not overly sweet, and delicious. The fruit is good, but disappointing as business class fare. I expect something a bit more upscale like berries rather than the somewhat parochial apple, pineapple, and kiwi. And yes, I do hear how privileged that sounds. Cheese is also on the menu, but it is never offered, and frankly, I am satisfyingly stuffed and swiftly shifting into a stupor. Which means that it's time for bed. ANA apparently does not offer PJs in business class, but they do offer a turn-down service. Now, you may recall that there is an empty seat right next to mine, so I asked Maiko whether I can have that seat made up as my bed rather than disturb my oh-so-carefully organized work area. And she is more than happy to do so. Nothing like having a suite of seats at one's disposal. And here is the finished product. 2 pillows, a comforter, and an extremely springy mattress pad that resembles a traditional Japanese sleeping mat. Now, I will admit that this is not nearly as composed as the Qatar Q Suite setup, but I think the space is actually larger than on the Qatar Q Suites. Anywho, the feature that transforms this love seat into the room is, of course, the doors, plural, because it turns out to be a 2-door system that takes me a few seconds to figure out. One must be smarter than the furniture, after all. Well, good night. An infinite amount of time later, I awakened to Maiko gently inquiring whether I would like breakfast. Considering that these are the breakfast choices on offer, I should assuredly want to dine. However, Morpheus is still weighing heavily upon me, and so I refuse. And heck, while we're on the topic of food, here's the selection of so-called light fare that I missed by foolishly sleeping my flight away. Eventually, however, the T-1 hour announcement from the cockpit pierces even my slumber, and I am forced back into the world of the waking. I will say that while I was concerned about the somewhat compacted-looking padding of the seat, I found the bed wonderfully comfortable thanks no doubt to the magical mattress pad, which I honestly think would make for a wonderful night's sleep, even on the hard aisle floor, even with people stepping over me. So, even though these seats have certainly cushioned their fair number of derrieres, the mattress pad rendered any effects unnoticeable. Almost as soon as I am up, Maiko comes to bring me a cup of tea and attempts to coax me into eating, well, something. Alas, that I were hungry, but I am not. Hashtag Contessa World Problems. That being said, a glimpse at my bedraggled hair tells me that I should visit the lavatory for a refresh. Okay, time for the bathroom tour. Well, it's pretty small. But what's really nice is they provide toiletries here that you may or may not want. So you've got your toothbrush and toothpaste if you want it. You've got your mouthwash. You've got a face and body sheet, which that's not the best translation of that. You have your changing table. There's a little bit of decor. Full-length mirror for infinite effect. The sink is a decent size, actually. It's actually a pretty wide sink. Not very deep, but definitely wide. For those who are fastidious about hygiene, it does have a bidet function. Of course, the seat is heated. I definitely would prefer a little more decorative effort, but, you know, aesthetics are a matter of personal taste, I suppose. I must confess, dear viewer, that I failed to capture detailed footage of the in-flight entertainment. But let me assure you that it is highly functional, varied, and excellent with plenty of content for all ages and tastes. And with that, we commence our delayed descent into Chicago. I have absolutely adored my journey with Nippon Airways and am severely regretting that my flight was only 10 hours. I am fully aware that no normal human longs for a longer flight, but really, such a wonderful overall product truly deserves more time to enjoy the pampering and luxury fully. Am I alone here, dear viewer, or would you too prefer a longer flight in Anna's The Room? Well, my journey does not end here in Chicago. I have a self-transfer to Delta in order to fly onward to Asheville, just in time to arrive for Hurricane Helene, as it turns out. But that's a fascinating travel tale for another day. Until next time, dear viewer, may your travels be creative and unexpected.